In Oakland, you can validate your ticket on board.
And it's going to be a sunny, nice day, Alexis. So I think knowing that and having that information, and maybe this will be an easier ride to work for them anyway, and alleviate some of that stress when they can at least look out at the bay, see the sun, and know I'll get there. It just might be a little later than usual. Alexis Matsui with SF Bay Ferry, thank you for joining us this morning. We appreciate all that information.
Of course, thank you.
Well, we continue to follow breaking news. BART service is down across the Bay Area because of a computer networking problem. We're looking live at the Daly City BART station. That sign there says station is closed. This is what you're seeing at every BART station across the Bay Area, along the peninsula, through the city, through the East Bay, all the way down into Berryessa. See a person there probably asking questions, wondering what to do next. We're going to have some of those answers when we come back. Welcome back on this Friday morning. Little tough Friday for a lot of people who typically use BART. BART service is suspended system-wide. We're looking at some people who have some commuters trying to sort of navigate how to get around the city and the Bay Area this morning when BART is usually their option. And unfortunately, that is not the case right now. You see that sign there. Currently, no BART service system-wide. Of course, they say we are sorry for the inconvenience. This is due to a computer issue, some networking issue. They posted this on X early this morning. This happened before BART trains were up and running, which is about 5 o'clock in the morning on the weekdays. So if you take BARTs for work or school, any BART station, you don't have that option this morning. So we've got you covered. We've been talking to passengers throughout the morning. We have information on how to get around this mess, and commuters, if you need more options, they are out there. And we've had our reporter standing by, Veronica Macias, this morning at Daly City BART station throughout the morning. And I know you've had a chance to talk to a lot of people out there, and I'm so surprised, Veronica, and actually impressed at how positive people are handling all this. Their positive attitudes, because this could be difficult when they're late for work, or as someone earlier told you, late for a job interview.
Yeah, hard to believe, and it's funny because that student also, I said, there's Uber. Why don't you just hop on an Uber and not risk being late to your job interview? It seems important, right? And he says, I'm a student. I don't have money to pay for that Uber. And right now it is kind of expensive to jump on that Uber. Earlier, we've been checking fares all morning, and at this hour, it seems like demand has high, that prices for Ubers have doubled. And right now, we really missed a rush of people that had arrived here, Gianna. We had people who were crowded That just left right before we came live to me. And some of the people that I've talked to, just kind of keeping that positivity. There was a woman who arrived, older woman, doesn't have social media, and
Are we losing? I think we're losing Veronica's mic right now. Veronica, we're going to get that fixed. We're going to come back to you in just a second. I know you were just talking about like people getting alerts on social media. That's how BART put out this information this morning. We've seen Muni put alerts out as well, letting people know that they've got that option to sort of navigate some of this. SF Ferry also alerting people via social media. We've seen it out on X. And of course, you can follow us on our KPIX social media accounts as well. We'll bring you some of the latest information. We are getting some new information right now. So let's go out to the East Bay. Our photographer Shannon is standing by there at the Walnut Creek BART station. And we're just learning that there may be some trains starting to run in the East Bay, but that is East Bay trains only. And I don't have any specific information. I guess they're just operating right now, or we're getting more information in at the 12th Street Oakland station and MacArthur. From 12th Street, you can now connect to the ferry. Again, BART service is down right now system-wide because of this computer networking problem. However, we're hearing that some BART trains might be running in the East Bay. So we'll continue to get that information and keep asking BART these questions. But it sounds like if that's the case, that is a very small portion in comparison to what they're dealing with system-wide. But it is a good sign that they might be getting things up and running slowly but surely. We'll keep an eye on that. In the meantime, we are still navigating this big mess. So let's jump over to our traffic maps. And we're going to show you the Bay Bridge here. But Brian, one of our producers here, can you push that back or just hand me this here? I just want to see the BART map where I can show everyone exactly what their options are. So let's push back here. This is what I wanted to show you. You can see this here. You've got Muni, Caltrain, and SF Ferry. So that gives you an idea of some of the options you have to commute this morning instead of BART. So if you're along the peninsula, of course, Caltrain would work. Sam's Trans is also a good option. That is the bus service throughout San Mateo County. I'm thinking a lot about people, too, heading to the airport. We spoke to a person earlier who had a flight to catch at SFO and arrived at the Daly City BART station, didn't have that option. So that certainly made an issue for him to sort of navigate that. So maybe, Uber might be an option, rideshare too, but we're hearing a surge in pricing. SF Ferry definitely is an option for people coming out of the East Bay or maybe traveling across the Bay. So any Trans-Bay commuters, SF Ferry will be an option. Of course, along the East Bay, you do have bus routes there too. AC Transit's a good option, and they're doing everything they can to accommodate these extra passengers they might see. And, let's go back out to Veronica Macias, who is live at the Daly City BART station, and check in with her once again. And, earlier, Veronica, when we spoke to you, because you've been out there for several hours, some of these buses are getting crowded as we are in the thick of that morning commute.
Yeah, we've seen the rush of people getting into the buses packed in like sardines at one point, Gianna. And it's really nice to see you have the SFMTA workers who are here. You have another gentleman who's been very kind as you get the crowds of people here trying to figure out what they're going to do. And he's kind of been directing them, asking questions of where is it that you work? Where is it that you're going? And this is the number of bus that you're going to want to take. And sometimes they're going to have to do a transfer. We talked to a student who says he was going to downtown San Francisco and was going to have to take more than one bus. Okay. And so there's that concern that people are going to be late to whatever destination it is they're going to. But again, you do have the assistance here of the SFMTA workers who are helping guide people. And, as we've been talking to people here this morning, you don't see a big crowd right now. We had a rush of people earlier. You also had the rush of Ubers that were coming in for all the early risers. And we keep checking the Uber fares earlier. Not too bad, but as the morning has progressed, we've been seeing that those Uber fares increase as demand increases, at one point doubling. I kept checking how much it would cost me to get from the station here to our station down near Embarcadero. So then that increased double the price. So that's what we've been seeing this morning. People who are trying to get to the airport who are concerned about missing their flight. And, we've been trying to talk to people out here live, and maybe we'll get lucky again. And sir, do you mind talking to us, telling us where you're going? And I'm going to work. And how bad is this throwing off your morning?
Well, it took me off guard for a minute. So I caught the 14 and made it here, but it is what it is. It was, yeah.
I keep hearing that throughout the morning. It is what it is, but you depend on BART. Does this kind of change your thoughts of the BART system itself?
Well, BART's been having problems, for a while now. So I kind of expect something every time I get up in the morning, but what could go wrong, and yeah. So
what is it you're doing again? You're catching a bus?
I caught the 14 all the way here from downtown San Francisco, and I'm waiting on the bus to take me to work.
Okay.
Yeah.
Seems like a lot of people
So it took over an hour.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So that really kind of puts a wrench in the Friday morning plans.
Yeah, it did. But well, I'm needing to work a little later, so.
Well, thank you. What's your name?
My name is Andre.
Thank you, Andre. We appreciate your time. So there you go. You have people like Andre that all morning have kind of been telling us it is what it is. They're looking for the quickest way to get to their destination, hoping that they're not too late to work, but that seems like that's unavoidable at this point. And again, you just have the workers out here and the workers inside here at the BART station telling me even the phones were down, Gianna. So it just kind of gives you an idea of the scope of the computer issues that BART is having at the moment. No estimated time for when the entire system is going to be up and running. As far as BART, we've checked on social media, and they have a map up now telling people where the Trans Bay locations are so people can get around and to their work, school, wherever it is they're going. Gianna?
Veronica, thank you for that. I love that Andre had a very good attitude too, and I'm so impressed. That's what we've seen throughout the morning. So really shows what the Bay is about. We've got people out there just sort of, hey, it happens, but we can roll with it because that's what we do here. Okay, so we're just getting some new information in. If you're at any BART station, maybe you're streaming us right now, we have limited service that we're hearing of for trains in the East Bay starting at about 9:30 this morning. So that might alleviate some of the stress on some of these people commuting this morning, on some of you maybe getting to work and school. If you see any trains traveling through other BART stations, they're likely inspection trains, and they're testing that service right now. So it's not up and running officially, but they do have some limited service now running in the East Bay. So again, BART service throughout the morning has been down system-wide due to a computer issue. We will certainly bring you more information. We'll get you covered as far as alternates go, but we are hearing that things are starting to improve. We'll have more on that in just a couple minutes when we come back. And welcome back. We continue tracking our breaking news this morning. BART service is suspended system-wide, and right now BART is saying it's due to a computer networking problem. So if you typically take BART to work or school, you are going to need an alternate route of transportation. So we've reached out to BART to get more details. We're still waiting to hear back. In the meantime, to get around this mess, you're going to want to stick with alternates such as Muni if you're traveling through the city, Caltrain along the peninsula, Sam's Trans as well will be an option. SF Bay Ferry is using larger ferries this morning to accommodate extra passengers maybe traveling out of Vallejo or Richmond trying to get across the bay. So again, you might see some busier conditions also on some of these other public transportation routes this morning, as well as the roadways. We're seeing more cars out there as a lot of people decide to drive to work instead, since BART's not the option this morning, as well as Ubers. We're seeing a lot of people using rideshare this morning as well. So Bay Bridge Toll Plaza backed up, and we're seeing some busier than usual delays at the San Mateo Bridge. Here's Jessica Birch with your forecast.
All right, at least it's blue skies above all those bridges that are so busy right now over in San Francisco, all the way up into the Bay too. Here's what we're gearing up for as we head into this afternoon. Hello, here's what's happening. We're expecting 70s today in San Francisco, upper 70s across the Bay Bridge over into Oakland, 80s in store for us past the Golden Gate Bridge all the way up into the North Bay over through wine country, with 90s in Concord and Antioch. This is well above average for this time of year. We're going to hold on tight to this warm weather as we dive into this weekend. Cooler conditions with rainier skies heading into next week on Monday. Reed?
And remember, for you at home, you can join us every morning for the morning edition, weekdays at 6 a.m.
From CBS News Bay Area, this is the Morning Edition.
The loss of human dignity all around.
Following breaking news this morning, as you start your commute, BART service is suspended system-wide. You're looking here throughout the morning at different BART stations, people trying to figure out how to get around this morning for the morning commute. Maybe to work, maybe to school. We've seen BART posting information at the stations as well as on social media. We got word of this, just before BART service was going to get underway. Again, you can see that there is currently no BART service system-wide due to a computer networking problem. They posted this on their social media account earlier today. I'm Gianna Franco. Thank you for joining us this morning. We want to get this information out to you because a lot of you might be using BART to navigate your day on this Friday, and it's certainly a bit of an issue. We have seen extra people out there using some of these alternate services like bus routes and Caltrain, and even coming out of the East Bay with SF Bay Ferry service. But we are getting some information in from BART. They're hoping to have things back up and running sooner than later. We don't have a specific timeline, but they are running inspection trains along some of the tracks this morning in some of the areas. So if you're watching us via the stream or maybe on KPIX this morning or on KPYX, just a heads up. Again, they are not back up and running officially, although we have heard there may be a couple of trains running out of the East Bay through Oakland at the 12th Street station there to help navigate some of this. So we'll continue to bring you more and more information. We've checked in throughout the morning with commuters who are really trying to figure out a lot of this, but most of it has been positive. They sort of just adjust and use some of the alternates. So let's talk about some of those alternates right now. Let's go to some of our maps here, give you a grid of what you can use as an alternate if you're traveling, say, into San Francisco, maybe from the peninsula. You can use Muni. Muni has an extra service being offered on some routes to help with that. Also, Caltrain along the peninsula will work as well. And SF Bay Ferry is a good option because a lot of people who use BART might be considering using that Trans-Bay route as they get from Oakland to San Francisco. So the SF Bay Ferry service is offering larger boats this morning to accommodate these extra passengers. And that's what we're seeing throughout the morning. Some of these buses are crowded, kind of packed in as sardines because they don't likely see as many people typically using their service. Of course, in the East Bay, you have options like AC Transit. We've seen them at some of these buses and areas as well. So again, in the East Bay, they are starting right now to run more trains, and they are starting at 9 a.m. instead of 9:30. It looks like the Yellow Line trains will run from Antioch to MacArthur. Blue Line trains will run from Dublin to MacArthur. So now we're getting more information, and the Orange Line trains will run from Richmond to Berryessa. We're getting a lot of this up on social media accounts. This was the latest information that was just posted by BART just moments ago. And of course, we'll have all of this on our website at kpix.com. So trains will run from Dublin to MacArthur. Again, Orange Line trains will run from Richmond to Berryessa. Looks like things are trying to get things back up and that service moving just a little bit better. But again, this was due to a system-wide shutdown throughout the morning. So once again, if you are planning on taking BART this morning, you need to find an alternate route. We'll continue to keep you covered on that throughout the morning. And if you are looking for more information, head to our website at kpix.com. And we are going to end our coverage here on KPIX, but we're going to go ahead and continue this over on KPYX, 44 Cable 12. This continuing breaking news coverage will be there. You can also find us at kpix.com, our streaming service, and on the CBS News app for more information. So let's get back to regular programming here on KPIX. We'll see you elsewhere on the stream. Okay, so welcome on in. If you're just joining us, we are dealing with a system-wide shutdown for BART service this morning. So we are getting some new information this morning. We're hearing that some of these routes might be back up and running, mostly those East Bay routes. If you are seeing any trains running through other areas, likely those are inspection trains. And we're getting more and more information about that. Again, this all started about 5 o'clock this morning, just before trains started to get rolling. This is due to a computer system issue, a networking issue that was system-wide. So we want to go back out live to Daly City BART Station this morning. That's where Veronica Macias has been throughout the morning, talking to commuters, getting us some of this information. And it's been a bit of a scramble for so many people this morning, Veronica.
Good morning, Gianna. It has, not too long ago, a young lady was here with her stroller and her son. She says she doesn't have to go into class very often, and the one day she has to depend on BART is the day the service isn't up and running for her. And so we're really seeing that this situation is really affecting, the working class, people who perhaps don't have a vehicle and can't afford the parking or whatever it is. It's not in their budget. So really depending on this lifeline that BART has become for them. The moment she got here, she said, oh, shoot, what am I going to do? So she made that phone call. But at the station, you do have a BART worker who's here. You also have someone with SFMTA who's immediately directing people like, where is it that you're going? You're going to take bus number 14. So throughout the morning, we've been seeing crowds forming, getting onto buses just like it is right now. You have packs of people that pack the bus as soon as it arrives here, and again you have the people, the workers who are just quickly directing people, and you have a lot of people also who are Spanish speakers who are trying to figure out exactly what's going on, because it's difficult for them to navigate social media in English. So thankfully they also have the workers here who are bilingual and getting people to their destination. We've heard several people say, well, it is what it is. This is the best form of transportation, the most affordable, the easiest for them, and always dependent on BART. But they say, we understand BART has had its problems in the past, and, this thing just kind of happens. And another gentleman saying, you can decide how to react to bad news and negative information. And it's happy Friday, he says. We're going to make the best of it. And so far, that seems to be the attitude that we've run into here at Daly City. But again, affecting really the most, the working class of our community here this morning with BART being down.
Yeah, pretty tough for people who, don't want to spend that extra money, Veronica, taking an Uber, which is more expensive. We're hearing about this surge pricing and so on. I really want to focus on some of the BART workers this morning. You've had a chance to speak with them. I know they don't have a lot of information. Have they been pretty frustrated with everything that's been happening also?
You know what? They seemed here that, they told us if we wanted to, we are requesting someone, a spokesperson, to come and see if they can give us information at this BART station. Things getting louder because you get like a rush of people waiting for the next bus. So you have people who form here, and then beyond that, you can see there's lots of yellow cabs in those Ubers. So they seem to appreciate that people know that they're here and can depend on them, and they're really nice and navigating everyone on where they want to go. And like I said, every so often I hear some Spanish speaking of one worker directing someone and kind of explaining what was going on and where she needed to go. But, we've seen the spectrum here. We've seen from people who say, oh, well, not a big deal, we'll just figure this out, I'll catch an Uber, to a student saying, I don't have the money to pay for an Uber, and others saying I might miss my flight because of this. So in some situations, it's not as drastic as others, but some people seem to be really impacted by the situation this morning. And those fares we've seen increase throughout the morning as demand for service has increased. And I don't have my phone on me at the moment, but earlier when we checked at about 6 a.m., things weren't so bad. For example, I was seeing how much it would cost me from Daly City to get to San Francisco, Embarcadero area where our station is, and the
Okay, so we're losing Veronica's service there here this morning. We'll check back with her in just a second. So we're seeing some, a lot of people getting this information via social media. Of course, we're seeing a lot of other transit services sort of stepping in to help. This was San Francisco Bay Ferry who tweeted this out this morning. They're seeing an increase in riderships this AM due to the BART system shutdown on this Friday. So they'll have significant capacity to absorb more passengers. Free parking at Oakland, just validate that on the ferry. Alameda Seaplane, Richmond, and Harbor Bay are available also. And they'll drop you off just a couple of blocks from the Embarcadero station. So you hopefully don't have to navigate or walk too much further than where you would have normally if you had taken BART this morning. So it's good to see you're getting that little extra help from other transit services. Of course, there are bus bridges in place, and Veronica was talking about rideshare being an option as well. I saw taxis in her live shot there just lined up in the parking lot, I'm sure there to absorb some of these passengers trying to make it to work and school. And we heard from some guy earlier, a job interview. So hopefully it goes well for them. Okay, so if you are just joining us right now, we do have information. We've got actually a pretty big update coming in from BART right now. What we're learning now as we look at one of their social media posts, this is at the Walnut Creek BART station. BART is offering limited e-space service at this time due to the train control problem. So here's a bit of the breakdown there. Blue Line trains will run between Dublin and Pleasanton and MacArthur stations. Okay, so as for the Yellow Line, trains will run between Antioch and MacArthur stations. Orange Line trains will be running as normal. That's good news to hear. But right now, there is no Red or Green Line service at this time. So that's actually some good news for a lot of commuters. It sounds like they're starting to get back up and running slowly but surely. In the meantime, you're going to want to stick with some of these alternate routes like SF Muni getting through San Francisco and some of those surrounding communities, Caltrain along the peninsula, and of course, Sam's Trans will work as well if you are in the East Bay, AC Transit. If you are trying to get across the bay, SF Bay Ferry will be an option as well. And we spoke to a representative from SF Bay Ferry who said they have seen an increase in passengers because of this system-wide shutdown for BART, but they are planning for that until everything gets back on track for BART. And hopefully you have that option as well, and free parking for most of their stations or for most of their spots for the SF Bay Ferry, with the exception of Vallejo. So let's go to Suji Nam, one of our reporters this morning. Suji is live at the Civic Center BART station this morning. Suji, thank you for joining us. I don't see you quite there, but you're at do you hear me, Suji?
Oh, I'm behind the camera,
You're behind
Gianna. Yes,
the
I
camera.
am here. Hello,
You know,
good morning.
thank you. Good morning. I mean, technology, I mean, it's a great gift right now so we can get all this information. Thanks for joining us right now. Can you tell me, I mean, obviously it doesn't look like there's really anybody in that station right now.
Gianna, that's right. It is a pretty ghost town. I'm here on Market Street, and we all know this is a pretty busy intersection here. People should normally be taking the BART to go to work or wherever they need to go today. But here, of course, the entrance is closed. There's a sign. It's a little bit blurry, but it does say, "Attention, this station is closed." It doesn't point you to where you can go here from here. But again, the entrance is closed right now. Let me pan over this way. Again, nobody here. I've been here for about 20 or so minutes, Gianna, and there have been a lot of people who have been trying to go to their next destination, but they were just unaware that the BART was still closed. As you can see over there, someone's trying to go through and they're not able to go through right now because services have been temporarily suspended. I actually did have a chance to talk to one woman. She tells me that she normally travels to work in the city by the ferry, but today she woke up a bit later, decided to take the BART, and then this ended up happening. She had to make some alternate routes and finally got to the city after 3 hours, which normally should not have taken that much at all. But again, this is kind of what I'm seeing right now. Just nobody here, very ghost town. You can still hear the tracks going. And also there is a PA system that's been going every couple of minutes saying, "Attention, attention, the service is temporarily suspended." But here, let me take you a look right here. Again, normally you'd see lots of people going to work. Right now, absolutely nobody. So right now, we do have a couple of BART attendants at these kiosks continuously telling people that, you know, it is closed right now. We don't know when it's going to be up, but they are guiding people. So a lot of people are confused, like that gentleman over there. He's like trying to get to the station, but it's closed. So this is kind of what we're seeing right now, Gianna. A lot of confusion, but people here to explain what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm sure people are just arriving if they haven't got that information. Looks like one person's just getting there and walking up to that spot to ask those BART employees, what am I supposed to do next? So everything's open outside of, like, they can still get down into the station. They just can't get any further than down onto the platforms where the trains are, because we are seeing a few people walk through there.
Right. And also people have been leaving too. So I had to ask, how did you get through? But it seems like those that were already in operation, they were able to complete that trip. So they were able to leave. I think people, like you said, they are able if they can, to pass through. But many of the people, again, are not able to actually get on the train. But a lot of people are just like, you see that woman over there, Gianna, while you were talking to me, she was asking me what's going on. So a lot of people are trying to figure out how to get to their destination right now.
Yeah, unexpected news this morning. And just hearing you talk about that person, it took them 3 hours to get to work. That is so tough. And it's Friday, you know, it's supposed to be a little bit easier on a Friday. Suji, thank you for being there and live for us and hopping on your phone there and getting us that information. We'll check back with you in just a second. Maybe you'll get a chance to talk to a few more passengers. I do want to go from San Francisco here, where Suji Nam is right now, over towards Daly City once again. That's where Veronica Macias has been standing by. Veronica, were you able to get any information from any other passengers trying to take BART this morning? We are hearing that trains are up and running in the East Bay. We're not quite seeing that at the Daly City Station, BART, where you are right now.
No, we're not, Gianna. Things still not operating here, but there is someone here with BART who has confirmed that, yes, things are running over in the East Bay. I'm being told that the best thing people can do before arriving to any station is go to the website. The BART website will tell you what trains are available, when they start going up, and the system is restored. But again, no word yet on when the entire system is going to be up and running. This morning, we've had, crowds of people who keep waiting for the buses to arrive here. People who have, even hours in, still haven't heard anything about the system failure this morning. So arriving here at the station and being asking questions, being sort of in disbelief still that, they plan their day and arrive and feel like, okay, well, what am I going to do next? How am I going to get to school? How am I going to get to work? Then they look at Uber and prices have increased. You have this gentleman here he didn't know the news this morning, so he's being told here, directed where to go by a BART worker. And you also have SFMTA, this gentleman here. He speaks Spanish, so he's been helping workers who arrive here have been having trouble figuring out what's going on because, they're having difficulty reading the information online. And we also know that there are several cabs that have been pulling up, and down in that area, you can see several yellow cabs that are here just waiting to see if there's anybody who wants to hop on a ride and get to their destination that way. And we've had several ride shares coming through this area. But the thing with ride share is that because of the demand, the increase in fare has been occurring. And we know there's also the Waymos. Here's another one that's coming through here at the moment. We had a gentleman who was with a suitcase trying to get to the airport and saw the long line for those ride shares at Daly City here. So he decided to go with the Waymo. So we've also had the spectrum of people who were telling us, oh, well, I'm just going to the gym. This doesn't really affect me as bad as other people who were, say, going to the airport, or someone who had that class today. We ran into a lady who was here with the child in tow in the stroller trying to get to school the one day out of the week that she has to be there. She has the daycare there at the school, then having to call her partner to say, come pick me up. But thankfully, we have people here, passengers, commuters, who are also kind of helping each other out, telling them, what location is it that you're going to? This is the number bus that you need that will get you there the fastest. We also talked to a student who was saying, I'm going to have to take a number of buses just to get to my destination. And that seems to have been the case for a lot of people here as well. But the good news is that it seems like we do have some trains running on the East Bay. So people here are hoping that will soon turn around and we can have trains running here at Daly City too.
And Veronica, we're just getting more information running. You just mentioned those trains in the East Bay. It sounds like BART is back up and running system-wide. That doesn't mean everything is going to be on time. Obviously, they have a lot of catching up to do, but this just-in BART system is back up and running all throughout BART, throughout the Bay Area. So I think a lot of people are going to be relieved that things will hopefully get back up and running very soon, although it's been a mess for these last few hours. It started just before 5 this morning, before BART trains were even running. A system shutdown. This has been a computer issue throughout the morning. But again, if you are just joining us right now, we just got this news in, a big update from BART. We're going to show you the tweet that they just sent out. It says here, BART service has resumed system-wide. You can expect major delays, though, in service, all destinations throughout the morning. This was due to an earlier train control problem. Of course, safety is their concern, and they wanted to make sure things were okay for passengers. At one point, we heard from a BART spokesperson who talked about that they needed to be able to see that all the trains were running safely throughout the system. So good to see that. This is in real time. You're seeing those retweets and likes probably increasing, trying to get that information out there. Once again, BART service has resumed system-wide. Still, though, a lot of catching up to do. This was a major hit for BART this morning. You can expect major delays in service toward all destinations due to that earlier computer issue. But finally, some good news to hear. And we've seen all of the other transit agencies around the Bay Area sort of hop on and help in and chip in. I want to show you another tweet. Caltrain posted this on social media earlier, or at least this is what they said, that they're currently providing mutual aid for BART due to this issue that happened earlier, the system-wide issue. Caltrain will honor valid BART tickets as well. Also, check their websites for alerts for all the latest updates. Here's that tweet right now. Again, they're offering mutual aid for SF BART due to an earlier system-wide outage. Again, they'll honor valid BART tickets and passes until further notice, which is so helpful for so many people, because having to sort of navigate how to figure out to get on some of these other transit systems, and then the extra costs that might be for them, especially a lot of, working class people. As we spoke to people earlier saying, I can't really afford to take an Uber. That's been a surge in pricing this morning. We saw that happen with Uber and some of the rideshare companies where it just got more and more expensive to take Uber from these BART stations because of the demand, which happens often. And thankfully, it's a nice sunny day out there, so we weren't seeing any weather issues as well. So again, you can always check our website, kpix.com, and check the official transit websites for more information. Let's head over and show you sort of our mass transit grid right now. We want to go to this map here just so you and I have an idea of what your options are. So the good news is BART is getting back on track. The system is back up and running. However, major delays will continue, and we don't know for how long. So in the meantime, you still might want to consider using Muni, Caltrain, SF Bay Ferry as an option. You can also use AC Transit and Sam's Trans. Those are all good options as well. I know SF Bay Ferry might be the best option for anyone traveling between San Francisco and Oakland, any of those Trans-Bay routes or some of those buses leaving from that San Francisco terminal that head to and from across the Bay. I know sometimes train services like Amtrak to get their passengers to and from will have that available as well. And we've seen people rushing to BART this morning, especially along the peninsula, trying to catch a train down to SFO. So let's go back out live to the Daly City BART station just to kind of show you an idea of what we've been dealing with through this morning for commuters. It's been a bit of a mad dash as we take a look here. We're now seeing people heading through those turnstiles. There is a BART employee standing by there, probably helping them navigate. I'm sure they still have a lot of questions, but I'm guessing there's going to be some smiles and some relief that they can get back to work and back about their day as planned, and maybe a little surprised that this is done and over with and they don't have to shift any plans. But you're looking live here. This is the Daly City BART station. We had a chance to speak with some riders earlier this morning. This is what it was like when they first got all that information.
Luckily, I left early today, so, I'm just going to take an alternate route, take the 28, going north towards Stonestown. But yeah, for people that are going to the East Bay, obviously that's going to be really bad. But at least it's Friday. Happy Friday.
Waiting for Uber to get me to work approved by my manager because I have to be there, so I have to go. But I have no choice but to take the Uber.
Things that are beyond our control, we have the choice of how we respond to them.
And that right there, Bay Area residents just saying, hey, it happens. It is what it is. You got to make the best of it. And what a great positive attitude we've seen from a lot of people dealing with a very messy morning. So again, if you are just joining us, we've got a big update from BART this morning. BART is resuming service again system-wide. They are back up and running. However, expect some major delays. Things will certainly take some time to get back up on track and back to normal for all of their routes throughout the morning. Just a little while ago, we did get those East Bay trains up and running, but right now we are hearing that all trains are back up and running. So let's go back out to Veronica Macias, because I'm sure she's in the thick of it right now, where we're starting to see those turnstiles open, those trains running through the station on the platforms there in Daly City. Look at that. I'm sure that is a good thing for a lot of commuters, Veronica. And I see you're smiling because I'm sure you're relieved too that it's back up and running.
Yeah, I'm almost out of breath here because we ran up to the platform, Gianna, as soon as the gates opened and people were being allowed in. And yeah, people, there's that sigh of relief. The people who arrived, the rush of people who arrived when the train had just arrived, well, they didn't know the news of the system being down. So they were the lucky ones. But so many people affected by the train's not operating today. You have a worker here with BART who has been very helpful throughout the morning, just telling people what buses it is that they had to hop onto, directing people in different directions. She's bilingual, and a lot of the people out here were workers this morning, a lot of Spanish speakers too, really not understanding what was going on, not understanding the information on social media. And then we also had the spectrum of people who, some saying, oh, well, it's Friday, it is what it is. Other people really affected. There was a student who was trying to get to a job interview, like I told you earlier. We're hoping that he made it on time, but we hear the announcements here telling us what buses or what trains are operating here. So as time has gone by here within the last few minutes, it seems like everything is sort of getting back on track, but I'm told by the workers, by BART workers here, that it is going to take some time to get everything restored. So maybe you get to your station and your train is a little delayed. It's understandable as they get things up and running. But boy, what an impact it has had on people's mornings on this Friday.
Certainly a big impact on so many people. It's a bit of a messy commute for them. And what you don't expect this on a Friday. Friday, it's usually a lot quieter, a lot easier to get to and from work this morning. But so good to see the platforms are now opened back up to passengers.
Here comes another train.
We're going to check in with you in just a few minutes once again as we see that train running through the BART station right now. A reminder, I think this might be an inspection train. We'll see if it stops for passengers, but they're still making sure that things are back up and running. But again, this is going to take some time to get back on track. And you can see it's not stopping. So that might likely be an inspection train. We'll see if it stops and let passengers on. We'll stay here for just a second to see these folks get on the BART station to see if it's one of the inspection trains or if it's actually one that is now back in service. Oh, look at that. Good news for those passengers getting on BART this morning and getting to where they need to be after what's been a pretty long and maybe frustrating morning for so many people. Although very happy to hear that people have been very positive, kind of chipping in and helping each other navigate what to do next in some of these alternate routes. But, you've got people carrying backpacks and bags, maybe going to school, or they might have college classes. And this train in particular is part of the Green Line, likely going over towards the East Bay. Daly City BART station is a transfer station, so you do get an influx of passengers there, maybe heading on towards that area near south of here would be Colma, Millbrae, San Francisco. That's on the other side of the platform here. You can see we have one more BART train running through. This is the yellow line that takes you all the way to Antioch. So really, BART kind of makes that horseshoe shape around the Bay Area and then cuts off towards the East Bay into parts of Berkeley and Concord and Walnut Creek. It's really serves so much of our community, and we're seeing people running and rushing, getting onto the tracks there. So even though there are some major delays reported right now, as things get back together system-wide, we are seeing things at least look a little smoother than what we saw just a little while ago. So good news there as BART service is back up and running, but it's been a bit of a mess for so many. Let's go back into San Francisco right now. Lauren Toms is standing by. She is live at Salesforce Center, the Transit Center this morning. And Lauren, good morning. Thanks for hopping on this morning so quickly. You're just joining us. We've got this big update. BART is back up and running. What have you seen from any passengers in and around there? I know BART doesn't go through the Transit Center, but likely more people were there just to use it as an alternate getting to and from work.
Right, Gianna, and this is a major hub for people coming across the Bay to get into San Francisco. Today, there's been a lot of frustration and a lot of confusion. I'm told by workers here that they've seen triple the amount of daily commuters that they normally get. Of course, I've tried to speak with people coming off the buses, but again, there's so much frustration with the severe delays in service today. People, of course, just trying to get to their jobs close enough to on time, trying to get into their offices as quickly as possible. But here is where all of these buses are coming in from across the Bay for people trying to get into the city. And of course, if you're on BART, you typically know exactly what station you're going to. But if you get dropped off at an unfamiliar place, perhaps like here, for many people, a lot of people don't really know where to go next. So there have been some VTA employees standing by trying to help guide people to the right station. Let's see. I believe we have several buses coming in now. If you want to take a look down the transit center, you can see all of these buses coming in again from all across the bay, unloading people minute by minute. Again, trying to stay on time, trying to get to their offices as quickly as possible. And again, over here, you can see a couple of VTA employees standing by helping people get to where they need to go across the Bay Area for those who might not be super familiar with this part of San Francisco. Let's see, I'll show you again. You can see behind me all these buses coming in and out, commuting people to across San Francisco.
All right, Lauren. Well, yeah, no, it's good to see those buses are getting through there. And it is hard for people to sort of navigate when you don't know this particular transit center or your route gets thrown off just a little bit. Have you had a chance to talk to anyone specifically and asking them how long it took them to kind of work around this morning? We heard from a woman earlier.
Yeah, Gianna, I haven't been able to speak with a lot of people because they're running off of these buses and out of this transit center. Again, a lot of frustration here of people not making it into work, into their jobs on time. So every person I've tried to stop and speak to, they say, I'm so sorry, I got to keep going. I'm already so late for work. So that kind of gives you a little bit of the flavor of the frustration that's really attached to these transit delays.
Yeah, fair enough, right? I mean, every minute counts probably at this point. Lauren, thank you. We'll check it back back in with you in just a little bit right now. But so good to see that, BART is back up and running. In fact, let's go back to social media. I want to show you the latest post on X that was put out from BART just moments ago. So they've got an update now. We now have system-wide restoration to our trains this morning. And they took some video here. You're seeing people on some of these platforms here getting on their train. Some good news, right? Everything is back up and running. First passenger there, train on the yellow line, was able to get on that train there this morning. So what a tough day, a way to start your Friday, completely unexpected. No trains were running for several hours for BART this morning due to that system-wide shutdown. We've seen a lot of issues this morning for people trying to navigate that, but looks like things are back up and running this morning. So one of the impacts we saw because of this was the roadways. On a Friday, you don't see a lot of traffic out there, especially on some of our Bay Area bridges, because a lot of people either work from home or maybe they use public transit. It's interesting to see how many people do use public transit because it's still pretty busy at the Bay Bridge Toll Plaza. It's 9:31 on a Friday. We shouldn't see this kind of a backup. And it looks like it from this live shot here with those metering lights on, the backup is still beyond that overpass. So I can't tell from this perspective, is it to the maze, but I do know there were several slow and go conditions coming off that East Shore Freeway westbound 80, which a lot of people might have utilized BART through those areas, especially out of Berkeley, out of El Cerrito, Richmond, trying to get to those parts of the Bay Area. And of course, along 880 for any commuters there, maybe trying to get to Fremont BART station or all the way down to Berryessa. That would certainly make things more difficult. So 880 likely pretty busy. In fact, let's go ahead and advance our maps here to see if we can check on some of our other Bay Area bridges. We saw the San Mateo Bridge wind down a little bit earlier, so it looks like things are okay here. Not too bad, just a little bit crowded. And looking at our maps right now, still pretty slow in those East Bay commutes, especially along 880 northbound. There is an icon indicating maybe of a trouble spot on the roadways itself, but it's southbound. Looks like it might be a stalled vehicle, which really wouldn't slow things down. So we've just seen an uptick of traffic on the roadways because of this. And 101, a little slow northbound heading towards SFO. Of course, BART, a popular option for a lot of people heading to the airport. And it is a Friday. A lot of people might be getting ready to get out of town this morning. So let's go back out live to one of our transfer stations. Veronica Macias has been standing by all morning long at the Daly City BART station. Veronica, have you had a chance to chat with anyone? Are they so happy that BART is back up and running and getting where they need to be on time, clearly?
People now getting to their destination by train, Gianna. We were surrounded by buses earlier, and I keep talking to people who are now hopping on this bus here, the Green Line. And, a lot of them, the lucky ones, telling me they arrived and they had no idea that service was down for BART this morning. So they're not having to experience the headache that others have had to go through this morning with service being down for a number of hours. And it was so many people that we talked to this morning that the first thing you normally do is you check your phone to see what news there is, if you have any notifications. A lot of people not receiving that notification before arriving here to Daly City. And like you said, a lot of people making that connection here. So some people had just hopped off of an Uber, and one woman I talked to say, well, here I am again having to pay for another Uber fare, wasn't expecting it, didn't want to pay for it. Others telling me, well, I can't afford to take that Uber because, you know, demand was high with Uber, so prices were going up. So we had people concerned about how they were going to get to work, how they were going to get to school. And a lot of the people that, you know, depend on BART, this is really their lifeline for work to get to and from, are, you know, working class people, hardworking people who depend on BART to get around. So that's a lot what we saw this morning. And we had a lot of people who were really helping each other out, trying to navigate everything, as there was a lot of confusion at one point. So you had people who were kind enough to take a moment, stop, and kind of direct people to where they were going. And of course, you had workers here. We have workers on the platform here, sort of reminding people that even though service is up and running, there are expected delays as they get everything going throughout the morning, Gianna.
Yeah, I'm sure it's going to take some time until they get back on time and on track 100%. But it is such a relief, I'm sure, to so many people. We talked to so many people this morning, too, just about the frustration of not being able to get to work on time and the hour, you know, the extra time it's taken. But everyone's had a pretty good positive attitude. Veronica, thank you for that live report. It's, you know, seeing people just kind of hustling behind you, hopping on those BART trains this morning and hearing the PA that everything is up and running. So with that said, if you are just joining us this morning, I want to show you this tweet from BART. They just posted this on X. An update here. We now have system-wide restoration of service. This was the first passenger hopping on one of those yellow lines this morning. So BART back up and running. It's still going to take some time to get everything on time this morning. But, you know, people are using alternates. They're taking buses, and they're even taking the ferry across the bay this morning. So our reporter, Da Lin, is at the Ferry building right now. And Da, I'm sure there's more people than usual there, but it's good to hear that BART's back up and running. But what are things like where you are?
Yeah, very busy. We're here at the SF building right now, gates E, F, G. So 3 gates with 3 different boats coming in pretty consistently this morning. And as you can see, these are some of the folks getting off of the Oakland side. They boarded the Oakland ferry about 25 minutes ago. And now you can see these kiddos actually lining up. They're coming into San Francisco for a field trip. How was the boat ride, guys? It was great. Yeah, the teacher right here with students right here, they said it was great. They were supposed to work. Now, were you guys supposed to take the BART to take BART this morning coming into San Francisco, or this was the plan all along? Okay, so this was the plan all along for these kiddos. All right, you guys enjoy your field trip. So you can see a lot of people on top of folks trying to get into work. Now, I was interviewing some passengers earlier. They said that one young lady who was who lives in San Francisco tried to get to the Oakland side. She's like, well, normally it would cost me no more than $10 to get from San Francisco to Oakland, but because of the BART shutdown, just from her house, the Glen Park area to the SF Ferry building, she says that took about $50 just to get an Uber ride because of the pricing issue with so many people needing to take Uber. And then, of course, taking ferry to Oakland, she said, oh boy, it was much more expensive. Now there's a small little break, but there's a boat that just came on. I believe that side is the Alameda Harbor Bay. That is gate G right there. So just nonstop action here at SF building. Gianna, I'll send it right back to you.
Yeah, you know, I think that was the thing too, Da, is a lot of people had that unexpected cost of what it took to get to work and school this morning, in addition to all of that extra time. We even heard earlier from someone who said they decided to use BART this morning instead of their normal route, and that wasn't a great choice, which turned out to lead to a commute that took several hours. But Da, it looks sunny, at least where you are.
Yeah, not too bad. The weather is great. In fact, so these folks, let me just double check here. Sir, are you guys coming in from Alameda? Is this the Alameda Harbor Bay location? Yeah. Seaplane. Yeah. Gotcha. And how was the ferry ride? Was it packed more than a normal Friday? It wasn't too bad? Okay, yeah. So a lot more people, but at least one passenger saying not too bad at all. Now, it is Friday morning, typically Friday morning light, And so a lot of folks, one young lady who came in from Vallejo, from the Vallejo Ferry terminal there, she was saying it was about 50 to 70% more than a normal weekday. So that was pretty, but she says overall wasn't too bad. Everybody was trying to deal with the BART shutdown. So everybody had a good attitude about it. So not too bad. Again, this is I'm going to walk with you here a little bit here. You can see these are folks just getting off of the Alameda side right here. You can see it's yeah, a lot of folks carrying their work bags, and sounds like a lot of folks are just not able to take BART. And so how was the ferry ride? It was excellent. Yeah, this young lady, are you coming in for work? For some long hair work. Are you guys late or are you guys on time? Just on time. Well, so yeah, seems like everybody's got a good attitude dealing with the BART shutdown. So yeah, not too bad. And plus, a lot of folks are saying the Bay ride is pretty enjoyable too. It's kind of scenic and pretty calm. You don't have to deal with the traffic on the Bay Bridge. So it seems like everybody is dealing with it as best as they can, try to wrap up the work week.
Yeah, no doubt. You know, you're right. And it is a nice day. And we learned earlier there's a lot of options when you take the ferry. You can grab a cup of coffee while you're on board. And they did have larger boats for people to accommodate that as well. So maybe it didn't feel so crowded than normal. Da, thank you for joining us this morning. We'll check back with you in just a second as more people come across the bay. I do want to talk about traffic just a bit here and show you some of the live looks at some of our bridges and maps right now, because we did see an uptick on the roadways because of the BART shutdown. Again, if you're just joining us, BART is back up and running. Service is fully restored throughout the Bay Area. It is going to take some time, though, to get back on time. Major delays still exist throughout the system. We'll keep you updated on that. If you plan on driving to work instead of BART, you're still going to see some brake lights and delays. And I'm sure people are kind of pushed back throughout the day, too, timing wise, because of all the extra time it may have took to get to where you needed to be this morning. So call your boss. You're going to be a little bit late. If anyone's out there, you know, and you're wondering where everybody is, well, they might be stuck in some of this mess on our freeways. And of course, with those delays with BART this morning. San Mateo Bridge eased up pretty early. Here is a live look, and we're really seeing what we should have seen throughout the morning, which was a Friday light commute. This is exactly what we should be seeing right now. So this is really great to see. Hopefully things are looking a lot better out of the East Bay. If you are taking maybe 880 both directions, if you're working your way through Hayward, if you're hopping on any of those freeways, you might consider using BART now since everything is back up and running. It's not bad though. South 880, it's just a little slow there in Hayward. Oakland, we still have those brake lights northbound as Oakland trains get back up and running too. So really, with BART being shut down, it really did have a ripple effect on so many things as far as people, just their time in general, all these other transit agencies jumping in, and of course, on the freeways as well. One thing we did see is more and more people heading over to the Salesforce Transit Center using those bus services, especially for Trans-Bay commuters this morning. So let's go back out live to Lauren Toms, who has been out there for a bit this morning, kind of giving us some of these updates. And yeah, you know, usually if you take BART to get across the bay, you can't. You go to the transit center and hop on a bus. Lauren.
Yeah, that's right, Triana. Right now, we're just seeing the tail end of a handful of commuters unloading from these buses. And there's a lot of frustration this morning by these commuters. I've tried to speak with a handful, and they just all really seem fatigued by these extreme delays. I did speak with one person who told me that her commute was delayed by more than an hour this morning. So a lot of frustration, a lot of fatigue. And you know what, Gianna, there's also a lot of confusion. Typically, think about it. You're coming across the bay using BART and you land at an unfamiliar station, perhaps like this Trans-Bay Center here by the Salesforce Tower, and you're not quite sure where to go. So VTA has had a handful of guides standing by, helping people get directed to where they need to go. But you can see behind me, another bus just pulled up. Let's go check it out. Commuters unloading at this point, many of them having faced extreme delays this morning, coming in from likely the East Bay. This is that center where people are getting dropped off after they've come across the bay. Typically, again, they'd be using BART and just keep going under this terminal here, but everyone's getting unloaded here to get to whatever point across the city they need to go. A lot of frustration, Gianna, a lot of confusion this morning as people are just trying to get to their offices.
Yeah, I know. And I'm sure just being a little late gives you that sense of stress anyway when you're late to work. But if it's taking that much extra time and not knowing where to go, that is not an easy thing to do. Lauren, thank you for that. And we're watching behind you, the bus, stop there and those people trickling off this morning. We'll check back with you in just a little bit. We want to go out now and just show you some of the social media posts that BART has put out this morning. They just posted this update on X this morning. We now have system-wide restoration of service. These are some of the first passengers you're seeing here. These were some of the lucky ones who got that news and were able to hop on the yellow line and get their day started as normal, although a bit behind schedule, unfortunately. So definitely not making it easy for people this morning getting to and from work. But again, earlier this morning, the BART system was completely shut down. BART system has now been restored system-wide, and it looks like things are getting back up on track. Usually, hopefully it's going to take a little time for that, but they'll get that sooner than later. And we've had reporters stationed throughout all over the Bay Area at BART, at different transit agencies and stops. And we want to go back to Walnut Creek this morning. We have Kevin Coe there live for us right now. And Kevin, it's pretty loud where you are. I can hear the PA system with those announcements right now. But again, what a frustrating morning for so many commuters, Kevin.
Yeah, very frustrating morning. I actually just spent the last few minutes just trying to speak with some riders here, and most people I talked to here, they actually didn't have too much trouble. So some of them actually just showed up and they were like, oh, we didn't really know about this. Others, this is their second or third time here. So some people definitely are getting later to work or to their morning engagements as well. I do want to tell you something, G. Train coming up right behind me live, by the way. This is good news, better than that announcement that we heard. Great to see this visually. But I do want to say that Alicia actually from BART, I had the chance to speak with her briefly. She was actually heading the other way, trying to figure out why all of this had exactly happened. She actually just showed back up. Alicia, thank you so much for joining us again. Can you give any updates on what exactly happened this morning?
We just know that we couldn't power up our train control system as we usually do this morning. And then what that means is we just can't run safe train service. We may be able to run trains, but if we can't see into the system, it's not safe to do so. So what happened was we started to reset servers, starting to send the crews out, trying to identify what is causing the problem that prevented us from powering up. Someone found something. I'm still needing to get the information of what happened, to the extent that we were able to get inspection trains out. And once those inspection trains went out and everything looked fine, then we were able to restore service.
Is everything gonna be okay now?
Yes, everything is powered up and working accurately.
The situation you described almost sounds like some of the reports from the East Coast where air traffic controllers were dealing with like blackouts. Is this something similar in that sense? When you say you guys just lost power there, seems pretty big deal.
It may have nothing to do with power supply. I would say it has nothing to do with similar things in the East Coast. We'll have to investigate to see exactly what prevented us from being able to turn all the systems on accurately. It could be a lot of different things. The train control system is extremely complex. It involves circuitry on the tracks. It involves train control rooms. It involves very big computers that are all speaking to each other. So somewhere in that system, there was obviously a disconnect. And thankfully, someone identified it this morning and fixed it. And so we will, of course, report back to the public exactly what happened as these hours roll out.
My apologies, wasn't trying to draw a direct comparison, but hearing of blackouts, traffic control, and like I know, just like in the air, timing is crucial here, right? Knowing where the trains are, exactly when and where, that's crucial. And the ability to not do that seems really big and really dangerous to me.
Right, that is how we ensure a very safe system. Our train control system at the time 50 years ago was state of the art. All of the industry was looking at us because we were running trains under automatic train operation, which meant the computer was running the trains and not so much the driver of the train. But now at 50 years old, the system is old, but we are replacing it. That's what's great about this, is this system will very soon all be fully replaced. It's a funded project. We are well into that project, but it does take several years because there's so many components. So it might have to do with aged infrastructure. It might not. And so we'll report back on that.
Any last thing our viewers should know?
Just all stations are open and you can rely on us. And really a big shout out and thanks to the bus agencies and the ferry agencies for stepping in when BART didn't have service this morning.
Alicia, thank you so much. Appreciate you so much for your time. Gianna, back to you.
Yeah, Kevin, so good to hear from Alicia, and some good information there too, talking about the aging system that BART has right now, and just learning more there. That is something they are working on been trying to fix. I'm going to let that train go by you right there because I know it's hard to hear me, Kevin, because it's pretty loud when you're actually on the platform. Yeah, right. Which is good to see those trains running again, system-wide. So the fact that it's moving is a good thing. Okay, now that you might be able to hear me, we're hearing that there's major delays. I know things are back on track. Do they have a sense of what the timing is for this? When they say major delays, I'll let that PA system roll through too, because I know it's very loud there right now. And you see that train, that's the yellow line that's going to get you to SFO this morning. So people probably are going to be able to kind of travel better. So as that train travels through, Kevin, I do want to try to get an update.
Gianna, you still with me?
I am still with you. We're just going to let that train travel through, Kevin. Okay. Now that you can hear me, I know it's a little hard. You're on the platform, but that's okay. Right. Those trains are running. The major delays mean 20 minutes or more. This might mean a little bit more than that right now. Do you have a sense of what that timing is? Because, 10 minutes, a big difference versus 45 minutes to an hour.
Yeah, massive difference, especially for people who rely on BART. What I could tell you is there are no major disruptions expected. But Gianna, what I would tell any friend who ever rides BART, especially on a day where they had major disruptions, just get there earlier than you think you need to.
Yeah, a good advice, especially on a day like today. All right, Kevin, we're going to come back to you in just a little bit to see how things are rolling along through there. But I'm glad you were able to chat with Alicia, who is with BART this morning, to get us more information. So thank you for that. We'll see you in just a second. And we do have good news to report. BART is back up and running system-wide, but it's going to take some time to get everything up and moving as normal. Other transit agencies were stepping in to offer assistance, and the freeways are busier than usual because we saw an uptick in traffic as a lot of people had to pivot this morning and hop on the roadways instead. We don't typically see these delays on a Friday, but here we are. So if you're just listening to us and you're just hopping on, the good news is everything is back up and running. Major delays exist, though. That will continue. Hopefully things will be okay for the afternoon commute. Hopefully commuters, as they come home, won't have this kind of stress or worry throughout the morning. Let's hop and go ahead and move on to the San Mateo Bridge. I want to show you this too. This is hopefully what we'll start seeing sooner than later on some of our busier freeways that were impacted because of this BART shutdown. So San Mateo Bridge, live look there, looking okay. And let's show you one more map so we can see how things are moving along through 880 and westbound 80. Likely still busy along Highway 4 as well. And across the Bay Bridge, of course, as more people drive, and 101 northbound along the peninsula. So let's head over to the peninsula right now and check in with Veronica Macias, who's been live throughout the morning. Doing a great job, Veronica, this morning. Thank you so much for all your work. You're there at the Daly City BART station. I know you've probably talked with a lot of people who were like, what is going on? Even asking you probably if you had any information, but it's good to see these trains are back up and running. Have you had a chance to speak with anyone? Are they relieved?
Gianna, you know what? I think today we learned two things when it comes to BART commuters in the Bay Area. That is to, one, download the BART app, and two, what a lifeline the BART system is for people who are hardworking, everyday people who depend on BART to get to and from work, to go to school. We've heard so many stories of people saying, oh, I was completely surprised, caught off guard when I arrived this morning because they didn't get that notification, an alert to let them know that the system was not running. And also from workers inside telling us at the time they were at the mercy of the computers and they didn't know when the service was going to be restored. So they didn't know what to tell people. So I think those really are the two lessons we learned this morning. So commuters probably downloading that app now. I checked it just a moment ago and it says BART service has resumed service, of course, but expect major delays towards all destinations here. So it seems like at this station, things have pretty much cleared. There was a worker who was here saying, you just missed an individual who has been riding BART, I think, for the past 20 years or so, and never has had a situation like this happen to them. So lesson learned here to check the apps and also the website telling people right now what perhaps delays they couldn't expect when they arrive. But some of the people who are just arriving now, no idea what was happening. So they're the lucky ones that are able to, pass through those gates without a problem. But this was really a major headache for some people. The good news news is that we've been talking about this throughout the morning. I was kind of, surprised at how some people were just like, look, it happens, and it all depends on how you react when you get some bad news and what you make of it. So people this morning really making the best of this situation. We saw this area here that was packed with Uber. So Uber fares increasing this morning. We saw that prices doubling at one point in the morning. And then we also saw that BART put out that map for people who were going to be dependent on the trans-based service and also on the Muni buses that were packed this morning with people packing in like sardines to get to their destination, and a lot of help from people who were here, crowds that were just pointing people in different directions, trying to get onto the first bus that came their way to get to their destination. So it was nice to see people kind of coming together as you had that rush of crowd coming in throughout the morning. But really this disruption in service happening during rush hour in the morning. So now that things are up and running, not affecting as many people, but it was a big headache earlier this morning, Gianna.
It sure was, Veronica, but you're right. The Bay Area hopped in and just did what they do, right? Other transit agencies hopped in to help. We saw people really, truly this morning have a very positive attitude in what was an extremely frustrating situation. So thank you for that, Veronica Macias, live for us at the Daly City BART station. So once again, if you are just joining us right now, you're looking at a post that was put out by BART this morning on X, the latest update, system-wide restoration. Service is back up and running. These are some of the very first passengers that were able to hop on that yellow line this morning, especially I'm sure they were relieved to get back on track after what's been a very trying morning for so many. But again, we heard from a BART spokesperson earlier. The reason this happened, they couldn't see all the trains safely. And, safety comes first with all these passengers. And as Veronica mentioned, BART really is the lifeline for so many people to navigate their day, to get to their families and friends and work. So this had a big impact on other transit agencies as far as more crowding and, of course, on the freeways as well. And we were keeping track on that throughout the morning. I want to show you a live look here at the Bay Bridge Toll Plaza, and it's still quite busy this morning. Can we go to the Bay Bridge Toll Plaza? It's still there we go. It's still quite busy here this morning. We are still seeing a ripple effect because of those BART delays on some of our freeways, mostly here at the Bay Bridge, that westbound 80 commute, as well as that ride along 880 this morning. So something to think about if you are just getting ready to head out the door and maybe navigate your day. Again, BART is up and running. It's not on time, but it is working after what has been a very difficult morning for so many commuters. I know Caltrain is still going to honor those BART tickets throughout the morning because people are probably just getting word of that and those changes right now. So hopefully things will get back on track a little bit as the day progresses, and sooner than later. So that is a look at that portion of the roadway in that area. Let's go back out to another BART station this morning. Suji Nam has been there live for us this morning. And Suji, things are back up and running. You're at the Civic Center BART station in the heart of the city where so many people use BART to navigate that area especially.
Gianna, that's right. I'm here outside the Civic Center here along Market Street, Civic Center Station. Let me flip the camera to show you kind of what we're seeing right now. Traffic is flowing again. I definitely have been seeing more commuters coming out right now. It's a little bit empty, but a lot of people have been starting to come back out again. I asked them off camera, how has it been like for you? And they said, oh, it was fine. They got on the BART as soon as it opened, and they're back here at their destination. But earlier this morning, Gianna, when I talked to you about 40 minutes ago, I did encounter one commuter who had to take the Muni and find alternative routes to get to their destination here to go to work in San Francisco. She told me it took her 3 hours to get to work. Never happened like this before, but she is glad she made it safe. But again, out here, you can see all the buses are flowing. More people out here than, again, 40 minutes ago as the transport, their method of transport is back open again. But normally you'd see a lot more people coming out here. But again, with those delays, it's still more or less a ghost town, but definitely a much different situation than we've been seeing a couple minutes ago, Gianna.
And that is so good to see, Suji, because it certainly was not the case several hours ago when people were kind of scrambling, trying to figure things out. But it seems like things have quieted down just a little bit there. And, BART comes in waves. These trains come through the platform. And what's great about San Francisco, and I don't know if you noticed this, did you get a sense that if anyone was pivoting and using Muni as an alternate, or maybe just hoofing it, right? Walking those extra few blocks and getting those steps in?
Oh, absolutely. There were a couple people at going to work who didn't want to go on camera, but they did tell me they were trying to go to BART and then ended up going to the Muni instead. And they said, I'm just going to have to find alternate routes to get to work. Some people that were working on the streets were telling me again off camera, oh, I've heard a lot of people, they're going to be late to work, but they're going to get there as soon as they can. So people are definitely doing everything they can, whether by walking, taking other forms of transportation to get to work. So yeah, but right now, though, it's definitely flowing more or less right now.
Good news to hear, Suji. And of course, maybe the afternoon commute will be a lot better than what would happen this morning. Thank you for that live report, Suji, and for being out there at the Civic Center BART station. So just to recap, if you're just hopping on with us this morning, this is a tweet that was put out, or on X, I should say, that was put out by BART earlier this morning. You're looking at one of the first few trains that went through the yellow line at one of the BART stations. I believe this is the Walnut Creek BART station. Everything is back up on track. They posted this on X earlier. This is the first few passengers getting to hop on that yellow line this morning after service was restored. What a messy commute it was for anyone taking public transit. And unfortunately, with BART's shutdown this morning, it really had a ripple effect on how busy the freeways were as you head on the Bay Bridge or the San Mateo Bridge. But things are getting back on track, which is good news to hear. So alternates are still in place if you're not quite sure if you're ready to use BART, because they are dealing with some major delays still this morning until they have full things back on track. Again, all trains are back on track, but until things kind of get that flow back through there. But they're definitely putting a lot of information out there on our social media services. And you can also get that through us at KPIX on Instagram, on X, and also on our stream 24/7. And you can also get the latest updates at kpix.com. We'll be sure to keep you posted on all of this. But right now, BART is back up and running.
Well, it's another warm day for us in the Bay Area. Today, we're topping off in the 90s in areas like Concord and Antioch, stretched down into Livermore throughout the Tri-Valley area. It was 2 days ago. We were talking about 70s up into Santa Rosa and Novato, 60s even the day before, and now we're talking about upper 80s, close to the 90s for our daytime.